I am Sierra Caldwell, 32, a lawyer specializing in complex family litigation at the prestigious Harper Wells in San Francisco. 7 years ago, my ex-husband, Ethan Marshall, 35, stood in our kitchen, bellowing that I was useless, stupid, and would never succeed without him. His words were meant to crush me, to keep me tethered to his control. But last week, in the Alameda County courtroom, I saw Ethan's face drain of color. His lawyer, James Harper, 50, glanced at my business card and declared, "Your Honor, opposing counsel is Sierra Caldwell from Harper Wells, a distinguished graduate of Stanford Law, specializing in high-asset divorces." The silence in the courtroom was suffocating, heavy with the weight of Ethan's shock. His mouth hung open, as if confronted by a ghost, the ghost of the woman he'd tried to destroy. I stood there, composed, my heart pounding not with fear but with the quiet triumph of reclaiming my worth. The polished wood of the courtroom gleamed under the lights, and every click of my heels echoed the confidence I'd fought to earn. Ethan's stunned gaze was a mirror reflecting my transformation, from the woman he belittled to one who now commanded the room. If you're still listening, we want to sincerely thank you for spending your time with us. Truly means a lot. We'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments and let's see how far this message has reached. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I highly recommend doing it now so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. These aren't just ordinary stories, they're filled with meaningful life lessons that can inspire, teach, and stay with you long after the video ends. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. A beginning in shadows. 7 years ago, I was Sierra Bennett, 25, living in a pristine suburban house in Sacramento with Ethan Marshall. The house, with its manicured lawn and gleaming windows, felt more like a cage than a home. I worked at Ethan's real estate company, meticulously handling accounts and client transactions, my fingers stained with ink from endless paperwork. I was good at it, my mind sharp as I balanced numbers and resolved disputes. But Ethan never acknowledged my skill. Instead, he spent his days golfing or schmoozing at lavish parties, his laughter echoing through rooms where I felt invisible. Every morning I woke at 5 a.m., the pre-dawn chill biting my skin, to prepare his coffee, black, 2 sugars, in the green mug he cherished. I pressed his shirts, packed his lunches, and arranged his life for a perfect day. I believed this was what a good wife did. But Ethan didn't want a partner. He wanted a backdrop, a silent prop to his success, a woman who existed only to reflect his glory, never to voice her own thoughts or dreams. Cracks in our marriage started small, like hairline fractures in glass. Ethan's criticisms were subtle at first. My dresses were too plain, my voice too soft, my ideas too trivial. Each barb was a needle, pricking my confidence. When I mentioned taking a law course, his laughter cut deeper than his words. Your brain couldn't handle law school. Be grateful you've got me." Condescension in his voice, the way his eyes dismissed me, made my chest tighten. But the moment that shattered my illusions came on a rainy April afternoon. Ethan was out, likely swinging clubs under a gray sky, when a client stormed into the office over a contract dispute. Alone, I pored over the documents, rain tapping the windows like a metronome. I found the error, negotiated a resolution, and sent the client away satisfied. Pride warmed me, a rare flicker of self-worth. But when Ethan returned, his face darkened. He grabbed my arm, his fingers bruising my skin, and snarled, "Don't ever act like you're above your station. You're not smart enough to play lawyer." His words landed like a fist, knocking the air from my lungs. I stood frozen in the office, the hum of fluorescent lights deafening in the silence. That night, I lay in our bed, the darkness heavy, Ethan's snores a reminder of his indifference. His voice echoed in my mind, calling me stupid, useless. But beneath the hurt, something new stirred, a burning anger, not despair but resolve. Staring at the ceiling, shadows dancing across it, I felt a spark ignite. I wasn't the failure Ethan claimed. I could be more than his definition of me. In that moment, I saw a glimpse of a woman I'd buried, a woman capable of outthinking him, of building a life beyond his control. The rain outside softened, but inside me a storm was brewing, one that would carry me far from this house, this marriage, this suffocating version of myself. Turning point. The morning after Ethan's venomous words, I sat at the kitchen table, the house still cloaked in pre-dawn quiet. My laptop glowed softly as I secretly navigated the Sacramento Community College website, poring over the pre-law program's details, course requirements, scholarships, pathways to elite law schools. Each word sparked a flicker of excitement, a sensation I hadn't felt in years. My heart raced, not with fear, but with the thrill of envisioning a future that was mine alone. The sterile light of the screen contrasted with the dim, oppressive air of the house, where Ethan's presence lingered like a shadow. When I shared my plan to study law, his sneer was immediate, his voice dripping with disdain. "You're 25, Sierra. It's too late for pipe dreams. Besides, I need you at the company." His words were meant to anchor me to his world, but I'd already calculated the numbers. By cutting his extravagant expenses, his golf club membership, those lavish dinners, I could afford tuition. The realization felt like a small rebellion, a crack in the cage he'd built around me. The argument that followed was a tempest. Ethan's face reddened as he shouted, calling me selfish, stupid, delusional. "You'll fail, Sierra," he roared, his voice echoing off the kitchen tiles. "You'll come crawling back, begging me to take you because no one else will want you." Each word sliced into me, sharp and cold like a blade. My chest tightened, tears threatening to spill, but beneath the pain, something shifted. His cruelty wasn't my breaking point, it was my liberation. Those words, meant to crush me, instead fueled a resolve I hadn't known I possessed. I wouldn't let him define me anymore. I contacted my best friend, Lily Nguyen, 30, a social worker in Los Angeles. My voice trembled as I asked to stay with her. Lily, my college roommate years ago, didn't hesitate. "Sierra, I've been waiting for this call," she said, her warmth cutting through my fear. "I know you're stronger than this." That weekend, I drove to Los Angeles, the city's vibrant pulse a stark contrast to Sacramento's suffocating stillness. The freeways buzzed with life, streetlights casting fleeting glows on my windshield, each mile pulling me further from Ethan's control. Lily welcomed me with a hug that felt like home, her small apartment alive with the scent of coffee and the chatter of a diverse neighborhood outside. She took me to UCLA's campus, where I sat in on a pre-law class, the lecture hall humming with ideas and ambition. The professor's voice, steady and authoritative, stirred something in me, a hunger to learn, to grow. I met women who had escaped toxic marriages, their stories raw and powerful. They had rebuilt careers, reclaimed their voices, and stood unapologetically in their strength. Their resilience mirrored the spark I felt growing inside me. One woman, a single mother turned corporate lawyer, looked me in the eye and said, "If I could do it, so can you." Her words settled into my bones, replacing doubt with determination. Walking through UCLA's sprawling lawns, the air crisp with possibility, I felt a shift. The Sierra who had cowered under Ethan's insults was fading. In her place was a woman daring to imagine a life of her own making. Los Angeles, with its chaotic energy and endless horizons, felt like the beginning of a new chapter, one where I could finally breathe, dream, and fight for the woman I was meant to become. The journey to law school. Back in Sacramento, I prepared to sever the ties binding me to my old life. One evening, I sat across from Ethan at the dining table, the polished wood cold under my hands. Divorce papers and my Stanford Law application lay before me, stark symbols of my resolve. "I'm filing for divorce and starting over," I said, my voice calm but unyielding, each word a brick in the wall I was building against him. Ethan's laugh was sharp, cutting through the quiet house. "You? No money, no skills, no guts to pull that off," he mocked, his eyes glinting with contempt. But I wasn't the Sierra of 3 years ago, diminished by his cruelty. "I've hired a lawyer, applied to Stanford, and I'm staying with Lily," I replied, my tone steady. I've also documented every instance of your abuse, including the bruises you left on my arm last week." The air thickened with his shock. Ethan's face cycled through disbelief, pleading, then rage, but I held firm, my heart pounding with a newfound strength. I left that house with a single suitcase, the weight of it light compared to the freedom I felt. The 3-hour drive to Los Angeles was a liberation, each mile peeling away the invisible chains of my marriage. The Sacramento suburbs, with their manicured lawns and suffocating silence, faded in my rearview mirror as I headed toward a city pulsing with possibility. With every passing freeway sign, I felt lighter, as if escaping an unseen prison. Stanford, new challenges awaited. My classmates, younger and brimming with confidence, came from powerful families, their futures seemingly assured. 25, freshly divorced and living off meager savings, I felt like an outsider in lecture halls lined with oak panels and lofty ambitions. I worked shifts at a campus cafe, the smell of coffee clinging to my clothes as I calculated every penny to afford textbooks. Yet I discovered a knack for law. Courses like contracts and civil procedure were puzzles that thrilled me, their logic clicking into place like pieces of a game I was born to play. But the competitive environment was daunting, laced with subtle biases about gender and background that made me question my place. Professor Margaret Lawson, 55, noticed my hesitation in class. Her office, stacked with legal texts and framed degrees, felt like a sanctuary when she asked me to stay after a lecture. She shared her own story, a woman who, as the first in her family to attend college, constantly felt unworthy. Her gray eyes were kind but piercing as she urged me to turn my life experiences into strength. "Your past doesn't limit you, it shapes your perspective," she said, her words sinking deep. That advice shifted how I saw myself. The doubt that had lingered, a remnant of Ethan's voice, began to fade. I spoke up in discussions, my voice growing steadier, my arguments sharper. I drew on my real-world struggles, offering insights my peers couldn't match. By the end of my first year, my grades were stellar, a testament to the resilience I'd uncovered. The Stanford campus, with its sun-dappled courtyards and echoing halls, became a place where I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving, forging a path toward a self I'd only begun to imagine. Finding my purpose. In the summer of my second year at Stanford, I interned at the law office of Karen Walsh, 45, a renowned family law attorney in Oakland. Her office, tucked in a bustling downtown building, hummed with purpose, its walls lined with case files and framed certificates. Karen was a force, representing women in contentious divorces against the high-priced lawyers of wealthy husbands. Working under her, I learned that the law wasn't just about winning, it was a shield to protect the vulnerable. Her sharp mind and unyielding resolve inspired me, each case a lesson in wielding legal precision with compassion. I was assigned to Emily Carter's case, a 38-year-old teacher whose husband, a real estate tycoon, had controlled her finances and psyche for years. Emily's eyes, shadowed with doubt, reminded me of my own past under Ethan's thumb. I pored over financial records late into the night, the glow of my laptop casting stark shadows. With Karen, I uncovered her husband's hidden assets, properties funneled into shell companies to evade division. Presenting our findings in court, I watched Emily's posture straighten as justice was served, her gratitude a quiet victory that stirred my soul. Case was a crucible, forging my resolve to pursue family law. Karen's office, with its coffee-stained desks and constant phone buzz, felt like a battleground where lives were reshaped. Each client's story echoed my own, women diminished, told they were worthless, their dreams dismissed. I saw myself in Emily, in her struggle to reclaim her voice after years of being silenced. Professor Margaret Lawson's words rang in my mind. Family law isn't just law, it's about saving lives. Her office, with its shelves of legal texts and photos of trailblazing women, had become a beacon for me. She'd spoken of the power of family law to restore safety, dignity, and futures, and I felt that truth in my bones. Emily's case wasn't just a win. It was a mirror reflecting my own journey from Ethan's shadow to a woman who could stand tall. I realized my calling was to be the lawyer for women like Emily, those belittled and controlled, stripped of agency. I wanted to help them reclaim their power, to stand in courtrooms and dismantle the lies that had bound them. The Oakland skyline, visible from Karen's office, sparkled at dusk, a reminder of the world beyond my past. Each case I worked on sharpened my skills, but more than that, it deepened my purpose. I wasn't just learning legal strategies, I was learning to listen, to see the patterns of manipulation I'd once endured. Emily's tearful thanks after her case settled, her voice no longer trembling, cemented my path. I wanted to be the advocate who turned despair into empowerment, who showed women they weren't the failures their abusers claimed. Family law became my mission, not just a career. It was about giving voice to the silenced, about using my pain to fuel justice. The late nights studying case law, the meticulous unraveling of financial deceit, the quiet moments reassuring clients, they all felt like steps toward a larger purpose. I was no longer the Sierra who apologized for existing. I was becoming someone who could change lives, one case at a time, in a world that desperately needed advocates who understood both the law and the human cost of its battles. Challenges and triumph. In my third year at Stanford Law, I confronted a case that laid bare the brutal realities of the legal system. My client, Dr. Sophia Reynolds, 40, a skilled surgeon, had been systematically manipulated by her husband, Daniel Brooks, 42, a cunning financial investor. Their marriage, once a partnership, had become a battlefield of financial deceit. Daniel hid income, fabricated debts, and accused Sophia of neglecting their children to prioritize her career. His allegations, delivered with cold precision, aimed to paint her as an unfit mother, leveraging her dedication to saving lives against her. The Oakland courthouse, with its imposing marble columns and sterile corridors, felt like an arena where truth was often buried under wealth and strategy. Facing Daniel's high-powered legal team, Karen Walsh and I worked relentlessly, our office a war room of scattered files and late-night coffee. We uncovered suspicious transactions, proving Daniel had funneled assets into shell companies to diminish the marital estate's value. Each discovery was a thread pulled from his carefully woven lies, my heart pounding with the weight of Sophia's trust in us. Case was a grueling test. Daniel's lawyers, clad in tailored suits, wielded delay tactics and voluminous motions to exhaust us. Their strategy was clear: outspend and outlast Sophia until she crumbled. I spent nights in the law library, its dim lights casting long shadows tracing Daniel's financial maneuvers. His tactics mirrored Ethan's, control disguised as care, manipulation cloaked in legitimacy. With Karen's guidance, we documented how Daniel transferred properties and created fictitious loans, each move designed to rob Sophia of her rightful share. My own past fueled my determination. I knew the sting of being told I was less than I was, and I refused to let Sophia endure the same defeat. The turning point came during a hearing in a packed courtroom, the air thick with tension. I questioned Daniel about his transactions, my voice steady despite the knot in my stomach. He sat across from me, his polished demeanor radiating confidence, but I saw the flicker of unease in his eyes. I presented a timeline of his deals, each one suspiciously timed to reduce his apparent wealth. "Mr. Brooks," I asked, holding up a financial record, "can you explain why these transfers align so perfectly with your divorce filing?" His initial poise faltered, his answers growing vague as I pressed further, exposing patterns his lawyers couldn't refute. Their objections rang hollow, the judge's stern gaze fixed on Daniel. The room seemed to shrink, the weight of truth pressing against his facade. His team's silence was deafening, a concession they couldn't counter our evidence. Case settled soon after, a fair agreement granting Sophia primary custody and her deserved assets. Inside the courtroom, in the echoing hallway, she hugged me tightly, her voice trembling with relief. "Thank you for helping me believe in myself again," she said, her eyes bright with reclaimed strength. That moment, under the fluorescent glow, was a victory not just for Sophia but for me. I had dismantled a system designed to favor the powerful, using my skills and scars to restore her dignity. Triumph wasn't just legal, it was personal. I had faced a mirror of my past in Daniel's tactics and emerged stronger, proving I could outwit those who thrived on control. Sophia's gratitude echoed my own journey, a reminder that I was no longer the woman Ethan had tried to break. I was Sierra Caldwell, a lawyer who turned pain into power, fighting for those who had been told they were nothing. Confronting the past. 7 years after I walked away from Ethan Marshall, I stood in the Alameda County courtroom, its polished wood and muted lighting a stark contrast to the chaos of my past. I faced him across the room, my ex-husband, now 35, who had hired Harper Wells to handle his new divorce, unaware that I, Sierra Caldwell, was his opposing counsel. As I adjusted my navy suit, the fabric a quiet armor, my heart beat steadily, not with fear but with the weight of vindication. When James Harper, 50, the firm's senior partner, rose and announced, "Your Honor, opposing counsel is Sierra Caldwell from Harper Wells, a distinguished Stanford Law graduate specializing in high-asset divorces," the room fell silent. Ethan's face froze, his eyes wide with disbelief, as if the woman he'd once called stupid had risen like a specter to haunt him. His shock was palpable, a crack in the arrogance that had once defined him. I met his gaze, unflinching, my composure a shield forged from years of rebuilding what he'd tried to shatter. The courtroom's air was thick, the judge's bench looming like a sentinel. Each click of my heels on the marble floor echoed the confidence I'd earned through relentless struggle. Ethan's expression, a mix of disbelief and dread, was a mirror reflecting my transformation. 7 years ago, I was Sierra Bennett, cowering under his insults, believing I was the failure he claimed. Now, I was a lawyer who commanded respect, my credentials a rebuke to every cruel word he'd spoken. The case unfolded with precision. I presented evidence with the clarity of someone who knew manipulation intimately, dismantling Ethan's claims as effortlessly as I'd once managed his business. His lawyer's objections faltered, and I saw Ethan shrink, his once imposing presence diminished before the woman he'd underestimated. This moment was more than a legal victory, it was the culmination of a journey to reclaim my power. Leaving Ethan wasn't just about escaping a toxic marriage, it was about unearthing the strength I'd buried under his control. I remembered the Sacramento kitchen, its sterile counters a backdrop to his tirades, where I'd felt small, my dreams dismissed as delusions. Now, in this courtroom, I stood tall, my voice steady, my mind sharp. Each case I'd taken on since, women like Emily and Sophia, battered by financial and emotional abuse, had been a step toward this reckoning. I fought for them as I fought for myself, the Sierra who'd once believed she was nothing. Every motion filed, every argument crafted was a defiance of the limits Ethan had imposed, a proof that I was not the failure he'd branded me. The victory wasn't just in winning the case, it was in standing as Sierra Caldwell, a lawyer who helped women rise from darkness, reclaiming their lives and dignity. Courtroom, with its hushed spectators and stern judge, was a stage where I rewrote my story. Each client's triumph mirrored my own, a reminder that I wasn't just advocating for them but for the woman I'd been, belittled, controlled, but never broken. Ethan's stunned silence as the judge ruled in my client's favor was a final verdict on his failure to define me. I had become unstoppable, a force he could neither predict nor contain. As I gathered my papers, the weight of my briefcase grounding me, I felt an unshakable truth. I was no longer the woman he'd tried to destroy. I was Sierra Caldwell, invincible, a beacon for those fighting to reclaim their worth from the shadows of their past. 5 lessons from Sierra Caldwell's journey, empowering your path forward. I'm Sierra Caldwell, and my journey from a controlled wife in a toxic marriage to a confident lawyer at Harper Wells in San Francisco has taught me lessons that reshaped my life. These lessons aren't just mine, they're for anyone seeking to break free from limitations and reclaim their power. Here are 5 key takeaways from my story, along with practical ways to apply them to your own life, delivered with the hope that they inspire you to find your own strength. 1. Recognize your worth even when others don't. Ethan's cruel words, useless, stupid, once defined me, making me doubt my potential. But I learned that no one's judgment determines your value. My moment of clarity came that rainy April night when I refused to let his voice drown out my own. Recognizing your worth is the first step to breaking free. How to apply? Start by listing 3 qualities you admire about yourself: skills, kindness, resilience. Reflect on them daily, perhaps in a journal, to counter negative voices, whether from others or yourself. Surround yourself with people like my friend Lily, who affirm your value, and distance yourself from those who diminish it. 2. Embrace small steps toward big dreams. Enrolling in a pre-law program at Sacramento Community College felt like a tiny spark, but it ignited my path to Stanford Law. Big dreams don't require giant leaps, just consistent steps forward. That spark of excitement from reading about scholarships and law school requirements reminded me that progress starts with action, no matter how small. How to apply? Identify one goal, like learning a skill or pursuing a passion. Break it into small, actionable steps. Sign up for a course, read a book, or network with someone in the field. Commit to one step each week and track your progress to stay motivated. Small wins build momentum. 3. Turn pain into purpose. My painful marriage to Ethan could have broken me, but it became the fuel for my mission in family law. Helping women like Emily and Sophia reclaim their lives transformed my scars into strength. Professor Lawson's advice to use my experiences as power showed me that pain can be a catalyst for growth. How to apply? Reflect on a challenge you faced: betrayal, failure, or loss. Ask yourself, how can this make me stronger or help others? Volunteer, mentor, or share your story to support someone in a similar struggle. Channeling pain into purpose, like I did in courtrooms, gives meaning to your hardships. 4. Seek support and build your community. Leaving Ethan was terrifying, but Lily's unwavering support in Los Angeles, along with the women I met at UCLA, gave me courage. Professor Lawson and Karen Walsh became mentors who saw my potential when I doubted myself. Their belief in me taught me that no one succeeds alone. You need a community to lift you up. How to apply? Identify 1 or 2 people who inspire or support you: friends, colleagues, or mentors. Reach out to them for advice or encouragement. Join a group like a book club or professional network where you can share goals and challenges. A supportive community like mine in LA can make all the difference. 5. Face your past to own your future. Confronting Ethan in that Alameda County courtroom wasn't just about winning a case, it was about proving to myself that I'd surpassed his limitations. His shock at seeing me, a Stanford-educated lawyer, closed the chapter on his control. Facing my past head-on allowed me to fully embrace the woman I'd become, unstoppable and empowered. How to apply? Identify a fear or past wound holding you back, maybe a failure or someone's judgment. Write a letter to that person or moment. You don't have to send it, expressing how you've grown beyond it. Then, take one bold action toward your future, like applying for a job or speaking up in a meeting. Confronting the past, as I did with Ethan, frees you to claim your power. These lessons, from recognizing my worth to facing Ethan in court, transformed me from a woman silenced by abuse to a lawyer who fights for others. They're not just principles, they're tools to build a life of purpose and resilience. Start small, affirm your value, take one step toward a dream, turn pain into strength, seek support, and face your fears. Each action builds a stronger you, just as it did for me in those Oakland courtrooms. If my story resonates with you, I'd love for you to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Your support helps spread these lessons to others who need them, inspiring more people to rise above their challenges. Let's build a community of strength together. Hit that subscribe button, share this with someone who needs it, and let's keep empowering each other.